Welcome back, everybody. And you know that genre everybody loves to make fun of, while secretly keeping the whole publishing industry alive? Yeah, romance. Haha. Romance novels are a billion-dollar business and one of the fastest growing categories in publishing right now, especially thanks to Book Talk and the whole romantasy wave. Here we'll take a quick look at some examples. We're gonna go with that image there. So yeah, I mean, you could just look and pretty much instantly tell it's a romance. This is the style of romance artwork that's going on right now. Now that you got a clear visual, we'll pop back over to me. Not romantasy at all. I know, disappointment. Bring back the pretty pictures, please. We will in a moment. But romance also has this reputation of formulaic, trashy, unserious. So today we're gonna do two things. We're first gonna do a speed run of romance history from medieval knights to um, bodice-rippers to book talk boyfriends, essentially. Second, a look at what the genre has morphed into today and why it's still so powerful, even if you picked up a kissing book on purpose. And at the end, I'll give you 10 cornerstone romance recommendations you'll probably like, even if you don't read romance. So, for the people that stay away from romance on purpose or have just never bothered to read any, that segment's probably going to be for you. Um, so yeah, from courtly love to book talk, the history of romance novels. Let's go. So, what even is a romance novel? Let's start with the definition before somebody in the comments says, actually, my favorite book with a kiss in it is not a romance. Well, that's great, but we're going to be talking about romances right now. Professionally and academically, people more or less agree on two things. One, a romance novel has a central love story. The relationship is the main plot, not just a side quest. Two, it has an emotionally satisfying, optimistic ending. In practice, that usually means a happily ever after, or at least a very solid, we're together and we're good for now. Scholar Pamela Regis even breaks it down into a couple of core beats. The couple meets, they face real barriers, they hit a dark moment where it looks doomed, then they recognize what they mean to each other and commit. Basically, tension, crisis, payoff. So for this video, when I say romance novel, I mean the relationship is the point of the story, and the ending is not. And then everybody died, sad and alone. Why does this definition matter? Because it's why some books with kissing aren't shelved as romance, and also why romance readers get very spicy when their genre gets mislabeled. You can absolutely have romance elements in other genres, fantasy, mystery, horror, but if you rip out the love story and the books still basically work, it's probably not a genre of romance. And to me, those are the books I don't really mind romance or romance segments being in because it is not the point of the whole story. I'm there to read a different subject. There are romance elements or love story elements in my core story. They're addition to. It's not the point of the story. It's just nice to have or annoying to have sometimes. But that's my reading preference, and everybody's reading preferences are their own. So let's start in ancient and medieval roots. Now, romance did not start on a duck's drawer spinner rack. If you go all the way back to the 1st and 3rd centuries AD, you get the ancient Greek prose romances, stories like Daphnis and Chloe. And here we'll pull up a painting of that. And yeah, we need to screen share to show people the painting that I just pulled up, because otherwise you'll have no idea. Zoom, would you cooperate? No, maybe. Share, no. Share again. Yes, haha. All right, so this is what it looks like. That's when it was made by the French, oil on canvas, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's see if we can open this up. Maybe not. There we go. A little bigger. Make it big, 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 too big. Okay. So there you go. There essentially is a romance painting in oil format. All right. So we'll go away from that and back to me again. Um they're about young lovers who get separated by shipwrecks, pirates, and general chaos and then finally reignite. So already 2000 years ago, we're writing about faithful lovers, ridiculous obstacles, and big emotional reunions. In medieval Europe, the word romance originally just meant works written in the vernacular Romans language instead of Latin. Over time, it shifts to mean a particular kind of story, chivalric romance about knights, quest, magic forest, and courtly love. Medieval courtly love imagery, knight and lady. Pull up an image of that. And since I'm not going to be bouncing around too much, we'll probably leave the screen share up this time. So share. This is pretty big, and there are several on here. So you get this. Those look like to be young lovers maybe here, and I don't know. They're up to no good. Absolutely no good over there. And I like how the throne is a bedroom. That's interesting. Whoa, 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 danger zone, Johnny. Stay away from the danger zone. All right, over here we got some saintly things going on. Little Cupid's arrow nonsense going on here. I think he wants it. Look at him. Anyway, yeah, I'll take an arrow for you. Yeah, right in the heart. They're about to kiss. Yay. A romantic embrace. Yay. Uh, I like the little falcon bird thing going on, but yeah, they're very much in love. Yay. All right. So scroll back up to the top and past the danger zone. Danger, danger, danger. All right, there we go. So back onward. Courtly love is basically the original I suffer beautifully for someone I can't have. Lots of longing, lots of poems, lots of very bad life choices. We're not in modern romance section territory yet, but the ingredients are there. Romantic longing, massive obstacles, and readers who apparently love watching people pine. Moving on to the 18th, 19th century, the road of the modern love plot. So we're going to jump into the 18th century, and romance start looking suspiciously like modern novel. In 1740, you get Pamela by Samuel Richardson, one of the first runaway bestsellers that's laser focused on a heroine's courtship and ends in marriage as a reward for her virtue. Um, and here, let me pull up a public domain image of that. Yep, there we go. Copy. And now we're going to paste in here. Paste. All right, so there we got the title page. Oh, there we go. There's our image. Haha. Starting to look like a black and white cover, a modern color covers I'm aware of. That one's kind of neat. Got a little castle compound thing with little statues on it. And got this one over here. All right, let's see if we can blow these images up because I know they're hard to see. Take that and that and then that. And we'll take a look at our title page one more time because it is the book we are referencing. So big, big, big. Okay, Pamela. Or Virtue Rewarded in a series of familiar letters from a beautiful young damsel to her parents. That is a title. And you notice that in older books, the titles are extraordinarily long. Volume 1 even, and it's in 2 volumes. Awesome. All right, over here we got the little I don't know what he's reading to her, but she seems sad by it. But he's smirky about it, so questions. Anyway, here's the image of the cool statues I was talking about. Yay, statues and the little cage compound thing. I think it's made of wood and stone, but I'm not entirely certain. Uh, Attended by her father and mother. So, father and mother escorting the daughter to wherever this is. And then over here, oh, tragedy strikes. Oh, the shock and despair by this woman. I'm going to assume she has died. Or very sick. One or the other. And then we're back here. So we're going to leave you up with the sad image while I go forward. Haha. Later in the 18th and 19th centuries, you got the Gothic romances like Anne Radcliffe's The Mysteries of Adolfo, and of course, Charlotte Bernard's Jane Eyre, which is basically romantic suspense plus horrifying real estate. So let's go take a look at that cover. Um, yeah. So whenever they're non-expressionless like this, that usually means it's a darker novel. Usually, not always, but yeah. This is a very famous work. It's pretty much in every classic list there is. So Penguin did a copy here, and you can get yours for, say how much it is. Is it free? Can't be free. But it is lengthy, 654 pages. It's because I made it big. Nope. Well, let's see how much it is, because I'm curious. View cart. $8. Well, under 9, 8.39 pre-tax. There you go. All right, so we'll go back over here. And again, all the links I'll have in the description, of course, for you to peruse on your own. But we're going back over here. And next up, we have... Uh, oh, yeah, you knew this was coming. There's Jane Austen, our patron saint of slow burn and social anxiety. Books like Pride and Prejudice take courtship and turn it into a battlefield of class, money, and manners. Um, so let's pull that up also on bookshop.org. There it is. I think this is a pretty long one too, if I recall. Well, not so long, under 500 pages, 448. And again, I don't know how much this one is. Let's take a look in the cart. So, 8.39. So for under 20 books, you get two classic novels. Look at that. 1678 is our current running total. All right. So, let's go back. Leave Pride and Prejudice and Jane Austen there. Going on. What all of these have in common is a heroine at the center, a developing romantic relationship, real social or economical stakes, and an ending where the relationship reorders her world, usually via marriage. Structurally, if you squint, you can already see the whole modern romance blueprint sitting right there in the Regency drawing room judging everyone. So, we're going to go on to the 20th century. Mills and Boon and Harlequin. There we go. I know you people know what those are. So fast forwarding to the 1900s and romance becomes industrial. In 1908, British publisher Mills and Boon launches. Over time, they start specializing in romantic fiction for circulating libraries. Um, and here we will take a look at some of the cover artwork, which is pretty neat, actually. Oh, well, that's not centered right. Is it because I blew it up? Minimize? No, blow, blow, blow. There we go, more centered. All right, so we have the old style Mills and Boon and then the new style here. I, as a seller, love the old style, would prefer it even. Um, I'm not particularly fond of photo cover work in general, so it really doesn't do it for me. I prefer more of the art style covers where it could be a painting if it wanted to, and some of them were. Let me go to Stormy the Way by Anne Hampson here, and then Greek Mavericks. 3 books in one. Okay. Then we got Tangled Autumn by Betty Niels, and then another Betty Niels, Seasons of Love down here for modern. Ooh, nursing. Or maybe she's a waitstaff. Well, no, it says nurse tenant. So not a servant. By Elizabeth Hoy. And then you got Scarlett Wilson's Healing the Single Dad's Heart. These look to be suspense, racing against time. Maria Ferrarella. Okay. And then another Maria Ferrarella in Cavanaugh's Missing Person. All right. The Sweet Surrender by Rose Burgley. I made a mistake trying to read these titles and names, but we're going to carry on for your amusement. Forbidden Sins, J. Margaret Critch, and this more modern one. And then the old one we have No Second Parting by Lillian Peake. And then Trail of Danger by Valerie Hansen. True Blue Canine Unit. I like how the dog's there. Prove dog. And then we have The Baron's Quest by Margaret Moore. He is totally missing his shirt. Where is your shirt, my man? Then you've got Diane Gaston, The Lord's Highlander Temptation. Yeah, and that will do it for our Mills and Burn down memory lane. We'll leave it here on The Nurse. All right, so going on. The Canadian publisher Harlequin starts reprinting those romances for the North American market, and eventually they slim down into a short branded paperbacks you can grab at your grocery store or a pharmacy. This is the birth of the category of romance. Short, tightly structured, recognizable logos, and very clear promise you will get a love story and you will get your happy ending by the last page. It's a promissory note. This will occur. At the same time, Georgette Heyer basically invents the Regency romance as its own subgenre. Her novel, Venetia, is still one of the most recommended starting points. And here, let me pull that one up. Voila, there you go. Oh, this one's pricier, 1770. Or even for almost $1 less, you could get it on ebook. Not quite a whole dollar. And it is 384 pages. Whee! Quick note before we move on. Not many people realize or know that Harley Quinn, they didn't start off in romance. They wrote anything from science fiction, mystery, biographies. And I think that was about 100 books of theirs before they switched to their formula of romance. So on a collector's and booksellers note, those early Harley Quinns are very valuable if you can find them and find them in good shape. And I wish you'd get hunting, because I've hardly seen more than 5 in my career here. But I've not gone out specifically looking, I'm just talking about out in the wild. And they are really neat and got some really cool cover art. Carrying on. So by mid-century, we have a historical line, Regency, Gothic, etc., a whole ecosystem of short contemporary romance, and a mass market machine that knows exactly what its readers want. Going on to the 70s and 80s, Bodice-Rippers and the big boom. Then the 70s happened, and romance goes full supernova. In 1972, Kathleen E. Woodiwiss, I can never say her name right, publishes The Flame and the Flower as an original mass market paperback. It's a big, dramatically, historically set, and crucially, has explicit sex on the page. It sells millions of copies and kicks off the whole Bodice-Ripper era. So classic 70s, 80s clinch covers, Fabio covers example. We like Fabio. He's a cool dude. And he's kind of the embodiment vision of what we think. And there's a butter joke to be made, but I shall refrain. But yeah, there we go. There he is in all his glory. Yep, there we go. There, all right. We're gonna, by popular demand, leave Fabio up for a minute, and we're gonna go on. So what you get is huge historicals, very questionable power dynamics by modern standards, and covers that are like Renaissance paintings if the Renaissance had more chest oil. On the industry side, Romance Writers of America forms in 1980, giving the genre conferences, awards, and formal definition. Central love story, emotionally satisfying ending. Cover art tells its own story too. You go from film poster style illustrations to the full clench cover. Look shirtless dudes, windswept heroines, castles at sunset. And to step back covers where the spicy image is hidden behind a milder outer cover. This is the era that created the stereotype people still joke about, and also the era that proved romance could absolutely dominate the mass market paperback world. 1990s to 2000s, subgenres everywhere. From the 90s onward, the genre stops being a single lane and turns to a whole freeway interchange. You get contemporary romances, which are about careers, cities, and modern dating, to romantic suspense, love stories wrapped in a thriller plots, paranormal romance, vampires, shifters, angels, demons, inspirational romances, faith-forward stories with HEAs. Um, so let's take a look at some of that. Yeah, here we go. Oh, we're gonna get all kinds of different covers, different styles of art here. That Hidden Moon one looks interesting. Shirtless dude. I mean, his shirt's there, but damn, bro, button it up. Um, yeah, same deal here. Like, like her clothing's not coming off. Why is his? Why? But anyway, um, yeah, you got everything from modern to this is kind of reminds me of Alice in Wonderland a bit to more Renaissance, Victorian, Edwardian era stuff. Yep. Okay. So by popular demand, I'll leave the shirt isn't buttoned correctly, gentlemen, up on screen for you and carry on. You also start to see more LGBTQ plus romance, especially in smaller presses and later in self-publishing, even while big traditional houses drag their feet. Academics and librarians finally put the glasses on and admit, okay, this is huge and people clearly care about it. Romances get serious genre guides, university reading list, and scholarly books that treat it as a long standing narrative form instead of just guilty pleasures. Full disclosure, I, Johnny B., the book shepherd, do not actually live in the romance aisles, but I'll definitely live next door and keep borrowing the sugar because again, as I said before, I don't necessarily mind a romance element being part of my story that I'm reading. I just don't like it being the core, and it's all we're really going to focus on. That's where I just can't. My brain's not there for that. Um, and I think that's okay. Just like I don't expect a romance leader to dive into grim, dark, dystopian sci-fi. They probably hate it. And they probably only like the small elements of romance that may or may not be in it, and they're in for a surprise when they get murdered in a horrible, horrible way. And then they'll never come back, which is fair. Um, let's go on to covers and cash, how romance looks and what it's worth. Let's zoom out for a sec, figuratively, and talk about two things covers and money. First, covers. If you look at the romance cover history, you can basically watch the culture shift in real time. You go from World War II era nurses and soldiers to 1970s and 80s clinch covers to minimalist 2000 covers with just a single object to today's bright illustrated rom-com covers with bubbly fonts plus ornate fantasy covers with antlers and swords and glitter everywhere. Um, Covers now also do a lot more heavy lifting in terms of signaling. I couldn't say that word. Signaling tone, cartoony versus dark and moody, showing diverse characters and queer couples, trying to look mainstream, even enough that people will read them on the subway. Second, the money. Big picture. Romance is over $1 billion a year just in the US alone. And recent sales tracking has it as one of the fastest growing categories, especially since 2020. You can literally see this in the real world. There are now romance only bookstores like the Ripped Bodice rather, with multiple locations and a whole visually brand built around. Yes, this is a place where the Bodice-Rippers. And here, let me see if I can pull up an image of their gallery. And maybe we'll do it. Aha. There we go. So yeah, it may be hard to tell because of the reflection. Can I make this a slightly bigger? I can. Look at me. All right. The Rip Botus, a romantic bookstore. Love with pride. All right, going on here. Oh, that's those poor paperbacks. They're being tortured, being suspended from the walls. But okay, I get it. It's artsy. Looks like you got some kind of I don't know if this is staged or not staged. If it's not staged, it's pretty cool. Got a proposal going on there. Going on over here. Might be an owner, might not be. They didn't have this on the first one. Maybe they added that. Adventure into romance! Exclamation point. Uh, that's kind of cool. Got some Olympic thing going on or competition. And yeah, they got some artwork. Oh, ripped out pages. We talked about that in a previous video of ours. And no, I like how they theme their front window. Their front window is their selling point to come in. That sign is awesome. I'm a fan of this. That's cool. Wow. That's fantastic right there. Let's just throw all the mass markets in the window into a giant pile and put roses on them with a little sign that says books. Yeah. All right. Their marketing's pretty good for their storefront. Oh, they have a little diorama thing. That's cool. I love it. Uh, he's got some big hair. My receding hairline wants some of his hair. Huh. Okay. We'll go on in a second. I'm just amused right now because I only looked at a couple images, not all of their carousel. And if we reach the end, we'll go a little faster. Is that Easter? I don't know what they're celebrating there. Oh, look, beach ball. Huh. Okay. Any more? Oh, it's a dog thing. What have they done to you, sir or ma'am? Okay. More dogs. Oh, poor guy. They put those Crocs. I mean, it's bad enough you put shoes on the dog. You're putting Crocs on a dog? That's terrible. All right, we're gonna do five more. One, two, three. Oh, it's T. Okay. Four and five. Okay. Going on. I don't even remember what we're talking about. We're talking about romances. I got lost in the bookstore. You think it's bad me doing this computer? Imagine me at the actual bookstore. So yeah, uh, the genre people dismiss as fluff is also the genre paying for a lot of the other folks' serious, sad marriage novels. So we're gonna go on to the 21st century digital self-publishing and romantasy, where we hit the digital era and everything explodes again. With ebooks and self-publishing, romance authors suddenly don't need traditional publishers to reach readers. They can release books quicker, target super specific niches, and experiment with things like monster romance, poly romance, or extremely particular kink. Romance becomes one of the earliest genres to really dominate self publishing, especially in erotic and queer subgenres. Then we get Book Talk and the rise of romantasy, fantasy novels where the romance arc is absolutely central. Books like The Fourth Wing and other Dragon and Dagger series start, topping bestseller list, and suddenly romance plus fantasy is the hot thing. On Book Talk, tropes themselves become marketing tags, enemies to lovers, slow burn, morally gray love interest, monster boyfriend. If you can pitch your book as it's this trope plus this vibe plus this level of chaos, you're pretty much halfway there. You also get visible micro trends like sports romance, where readers are literally showing up to hockey games because of hockey romance books. Dark romance, mafia romance, monster romance, you name it. And a massive boom in queer and BIPOC, neurodivergent, and disabled romance, getting front table placement instead of just hiding in the back. Talia Hibbert cover for Get a Life, Chloe Brown. Helen Holmes, The Kiss Quotient, queer rom-coms. And here we'll take a look at a couple of these examples. We'll go with Chloe Brown first. What oh, 17 bucks. Get a Life, Chloe Brown. And yeah, we're gonna clock in at 384 pages there for $17.70. Now, example two, the Kiss Quotient, 1491, and we're gonna clock in at 352 pages there, and going on. So, who's actually reading this stuff? Because it's not this guy. There's a stereotype that romance is for straight, middle-aged white women who read on the beach. Reality is messier in a good way. Surveys and commentaries show that men do read romance, some even identify as diehard fans. Romance bookstores report a wide age range, and Book Talk has dragged an entire generation of younger readers into the genre. Uh, BIPOC readers, queer readers, neurodivergent readers, there's a huge audience that's always been there, and now they're finally seeing more of themselves on covers and in marketing copy. So dunking on romance is never just, I don't like that genre. It's usually also, I don't take those readers seriously. So moving on to criticism, consolation, and what romance does. Let's be honest. Some criticisms of romance are valid, especially if you look at older titles. There are books with uh, heroes, no concept of consent, zero diversity, and some seriously outdated gender roles. But if you look at what modern romance is trying to do, a different picture emerges. A lot of contemporary romance is explicitly about consent and communication, healing from trauma, negotiating power and partnership, and insisting that joy and emotional safety are things you're allowed to want. Some scholars argue that the core of romance is the removal of barriers to a woman's freedom economic, social, familia, with love as the engine that helps her break those chains. Other writers talk about romance as consolation genre, a narrative space that says even in the world that's kind of a tire fire, love and mutual care are still possible. So yes, there are cliches. Yes, some books are shallow, but the project of the genre overall is actually pretty radical. Take someone who has been told in various ways they don't deserve love and spend 300 to 400 pages proving that idea wrong. Um, So from courtly love to book talk, what's the through line? Let's connect the dots. Medieval chivalric stories gave us knights, quest, and impossible love. The 18th and 19th century gave us the courtship plot as a novel-length structure. The earlier 20th century gave us Mills and Boons and Harlequin, the idea that love stories could be branded, reliable, product on a mass scale. The 70s and 80s gave us Bodice-Rippers and clinch covers and proved romance could absolutely dominate the paperback racks. The 90s and 2000s exploded into subgenres and finally started getting academic respect. And now in the digital and book talk era, romance is a major revenue engine for publishers, a laboratory for playing with gender, sexuality, and power, and a home for a huge, widely diverse community of readers. Through all of that, the core contract hasn't changed. A central love story and an emotionally satisfying, optimistic ending. Everything else, the setting, the tropes, the heat levels, the identities involved can shift. But if you take away those two pillars, you're not in the romance aisle anymore. So now we're gonna go on to uh 10 cornerstones of romance for non-romance readers. So I'd be this guy. I don't typically go into the romance aisle and browse. That's just not what I'm interested in. But there are a few ones that I've heard recommendations on that I've actually read that I would consider decent, usually via recommendation from somebody like, you got to read this. So, yeah, our history lecture is great, but you might be thinking, fine, you sold me, where do I start? So, the 10 cornerstone romance novels that are very much romance in structure, frequently cited inside the genre as important and friendly to people who normally live in the other sections of the bookstore, me. I'll move roughly from classics to historical to contemporary to fantasy, so you can mentally mark which lane sounds the most like for you. I'm not saying read all 10 of these, unless you want to, then by all means, but pick a category where you think you might have at least an inkling of an interest. That will make it a little bit more digestible. We've already looked at The Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and I still have that up. Maybe. Well, I can bring it up again because I got magical powers. And magical powers can do that. Haha. So yeah, Pride and Prejudice. This is the original Enemies to Lovers Slow Burn plus razor sharp commentary on class and marriage economics. If you want to understand how deeply romance is baked into the Anglophone canon, start here. And then another book we talked about was Jane Eyre by Charlotte Brontë. It's best for gothic and horror adjacent readers, people who like problematic but fascinating relationship. This is a romance by way of haunted house, moral struggle, trauma, religious angst, and one very complicated love interest. It's the cornerstone of the gothic romance that heavily influences later romantic suspense, with cursed real estate books. So I'll bring that up. And I will say Gothic horror would be my go-to if I were to recommend a romance genre to someone to start with, as you get elements of horror and that suspense, thriller, what's going to happen next. It feels like it feels fast-paced in a good way. Um, Also, really good to sell. But I digress. Then we have at number three, The Venetia by Georgette Heyer. We've already talked about that, but we'll pull it up again. Aha. And this one, you're going to get best for Austen fans who want something equally sharp but slightly more chaotic. Heyer is the queen of Regency romance, and Venetia is often recommended as one of her best. It's a witty, character driven, older heroine, infamous rake, story that shows how we get from Austen to modern historical romance shelf. And number four, Lord of Scoundrels by Laurette Chase. That's pretty much best for anyone who wants to see what perfectly tuned historical romances look like. Inside the genre, this is basically a legend, brilliant, competent heroine, legendary disaster man hero, intense chemistry, fantastic dialogue. It's on a ton of best romances of all time lists and shows you exactly how far the genre evolved from those early Bodice-Ripper days. And we'll pull this up. Hey, look, a new book. Okay. And how many pages on this one? 384. Okay. Going on. 5. I'm going to get a lot of flack in the comments from this section from my friends because I kind of make fun of Miss Roberts on a regular basis because I find her books so often. Montana Sky by, Nora Roberts. It's best for people who like thrillers, family sagas, and big landscapes. Nora Roberts is basically her own subgenre at this point. Montana Sky mixes inheritance drama, murder mystery, and romantic arcs on a huge Montana ranch. If you normally read general fiction or mysteries, this feels like familiar territory with a stronger romance spine. All right, Mr. Roberts, you made it on my channel finally. Good job. For $15.83. Um, and you're going to get 464 pages for your money. Moving on down to number 6, Bet Me by Jennifer Cruzy. It's best for smart rom-com fans, people interested in how gender and body image play out on the page. This is often cited as one of the best contemporary romances ever written. It's funny and incredibly comforting. I can speak English sometimes, but also sharp about diet culture, family pressure, and the stories we tell ourselves about love and deserving good things. So pulling that up. We got a pair of dice. Oh, they rolled a 7. Good for you. Take you to Vegas. Number 7, we have The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. Best for character-driven contemporary readers, neurodivergent, represented, teach me how to relationship tropes, autistic heroine, male escort, extremely good communication arcs. It's sexy, it's tender, and it's constantly used an example of how modern romance handles consent, mental health, and identity with nuance. So there we go. Okay, for $14.91 and 342 pages. Haha. Going on to number 8. Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. Best for cozy but spicy, chronic illness represented, grumpy/sunshine fans. Chloe is chronically ill, geeky heroine with a get a life list. Red is her artsy, tattooed neighbor. It's a laugh out loud, funny, and deeply kind about pain, trauma, and recovery. This is one of the key books in the current new canon of inclusive romance. And number 9, Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Hopefully that's how you say it. I'm sorry, Casey, if I got your name wrong. It's best for political junkies, fan fiction energy, queer rom-com lovers. First son of the United States falls in love with a British prince. It's big, earnest, and packed with emails and international drama. It's also one of the books that really pushed queer romance into the mainstream front tables. Okay, we'll pull this one up. 1583, and it is 448 pages. And our last recommendation is Radiance by Grace Draven. It's best for fantasy readers who want an actually romance structured fantasy. This is an arranged marriage between a human woman and a non human prince, written as a slow burn friends to lovers story with political stakes. The central plot is, well, the relationship, and it delivers a book level HEA, which makes it a fantastic example of true fantasy romance, not just fantasy with some kissing. And I believe this is the Spanish edition. So for your Espanol readers, there you go. And it is 24.19, available for pre-order for this edition. There's an English version. But it clocks in at 312. And let's see here. So, if you're romance curious, my suggestion is pick one classic, maybe Austen and Brontës, one contemporary, Cruz, Hoang, Hibbert, or McQuistion, and one fantasy, probably Radiance, and figure out which lane your brain lights up for, and congratulations, you discover what kind of romance reader you actually are. Um, so to wrap this up, romance has been around since ancient Greek lovers getting shipwrecked through medieval courtly love and knights making terrible life choices through Austen, the Bernays, Mills and Boons, Harlequin, Bodice-Rippers, Airport Racks, and now BookTok. It's not just fluff, it's a long evolving conversation about power, desire, freedom, and who gets a happy ending. If you enjoyed these deep dives, well, hit like and subscribe and tell me in the comments. What's the one romance or romantasy if you had to hand someone who swears they don't read romance? And remember, just because a book has a pink cover doesn't mean it's not doing heavy emotional lifting. I'm going to end the screen share there. So yeah, and my personal wrap up is I I don't like happy endings. I read grim dark, so that's partially why I don't read a ton of romance, or at least romance is the central plot element. Now, looking over the fence at it, I do see it's pushing a lot of boundaries. It's focusing on mental health, neurodivergency, or or groupings of people who aren't really referenced in literature. They're not the starring figure. They may be a side character or in it for comic relief, but they aren't the core character. And I do like that the romance genre is bringing these characters who I think have been underrepresented, or groupings of people have been underrepresented, to more the forefront. I think that's a good thing, and I think we will see them come off. I mean, we're already starting to see it come off in the other genres like mystery, horror, um, fantasy. Not the romantasy, just general fantasy. Um, and yeah, it's just really good to see. If you like these kind of videos, we are going to add Know Your Genre or Subgenre to a playlist. Ah, another playlist. It'll never end. There's so much to talk about. Ha 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 ha. But anyway, if you like this kind of stuff, again, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. I'm also doing a Patreon, um, which is basically a book club where we read books and we talk about what we read. And if you like cool books and kick-ass books, maybe give my Patreon a viewing. Take a look. Instead of, well, I can't say it for not getting sued reasons, but you know what I was going to say. That link will also be down in the description, plus all the things we talked about here today. So I think that's going to do it. And as always, keep on booking on.